You got a cup of tea?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're live. Cheers. Welcome,
Cheers.
Boris Ordinskov.
Ordinskikov.
I should have come up with a Czech name for me. I went a bit more Latino with the Marcos.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm all right. All the better for seeing you, as you would say.
Yeah, I know. It's been too long, man, since I saw you last. Well, I see you singing quite often on the Facebook there. Yeah, it's nice.
Good. I like your porch sessions with the slide.
Yeah, that's good. I like to sit out there and play, you know. That's nice.
Yeah, man.
I look out across the neighbours, you know, my minions across the street.
Your fans.
Oh dear.
So what I usually do, Graham, is just introduce people. I mean, probably most people watching and listening will know you because there's a bit of a buzz going on around people seeing you, all your adoring friends here.
Ah, that's nice.
Cool. But Graham Ord, what can we say about him? The myth, the legend, the flapping fish himself.
The whiff.
The whiff. So I've the privilege of knowing Graham at a really key time in my life when I just come to faith and turned up. Although I think might have met you in my school previously, but turned up at the Vineyard and you were leading the music with our mate Jimmy behind a drum shield and Dave Moore playing bass and probably Adam playing keyboards, and it was and saxophone, and it was pretty different. It was way better music than I'd experienced in any church so that far. So I think that was one of the, as well as the friendships, that was probably one of the things which kept me in church, really, and just being able to play guitar with you and see the way that I think God kind of placed you in my life at a really key time where I had somebody who understood, you know, it's like when we started playing in pubs, you were just like, brilliant, go for it. Rather than like, oh, you can't do that, or that's not a Christian thing to do, or something like that. Yeah. And then bringing us into the worship band and kind of experiencing some pretty amazing moments together. So that's kind of my view of you. And I like to embarrass people a bit at the beginning of this and just kind of go, thank you for all that. That was such a special time and very formational and kind of still living out of some of that stuff, really.
That's good. Well, that's funny, Mark, because I have a kind of different recollection. Because I at that time I used to work in the high schools. You probably remember. I think you went to Beaumont School, didn't you?
Yeah.
And my job was kind of like going around the schools and sharing my kind of story and my faith and stuff like that with youngsters. And you were in one of those classes, you probably remember, and you were the most cantankerous git I'd ever met, really. Like, you know what I mean, at that time. You were very, you had very, no, I mean, I'm joking about that, but you
yeah,
lots of questions, and it was really cool, you know, and I remember you actually in those times, and I always used to think, it didn't seem like it was likely at the time, but I used to think this lad might end up in church one of these days, you know what I mean? Because you were so inquisitive towards spiritual things, you know. So yeah, it wasn't a shock when I saw you come to church. And when I heard you play the guitar, I realized that I didn't have to play much anymore after that because you were so good, you know. So yeah, and Jimmy the Skin. Once Jimmy figured out how to end his fills on the one again instead of on the two, the music was pretty cool, wasn't it?
To be fair, Jimmy the Skin, by the time I arrived there, he was really good.
Yeah,
he was 15, and he was like, I was just like, well, he looked about 20 anyway, didn't he? But
yeah, he was 12, I think, when he first started playing. So yeah, he'd had 3 years to figure out how to get back to the one when he did his fills. Poor old Jim. It's great though, man. I have special memories of those times as well for me, you know, and it's lovely to see how you've done so good, you know. I wanted to tell you a story actually that maybe you don't know about. So I took over the youth at the St. Albans vineyard there from Rick and Sally Freeman, who done an amazing job, and man, they were a hard act to follow because they built that youth group there to, I think, you know, there was 200 or 300 kids used to come to that thing at its peak, you know, so it was quite the thing. And then I kind of took over from them, and really didn't have the same kind of skills that they had really at that time to lead that. And I remember the group, you know, kind of like ended up with probably about 15 people that were really key, you know, and keen to come all the time, you know. And then there were some people who like Jimmy the Skin was one of them actually. They kind of were involved, but they didn't really come to the group very much at that time. And there was all kinds of stuff going on, being, you know, just being young and stuff. And, you know, I was kind of wondering whether I was any good for this, and whether
Graham.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just completely lost you there.
Oh, did you?
I lost internet, so I don't know if.
Oh, yeah.
So story.
Yeah. So I was in this situation where I was taking over this youth group, and then and I was wondering whether I was really any good at it because I was comparing myself with others. And up the road we had Soul Survivor, and there's dear old Matt up the road there with Mike Pilavacci and that, you know, hundreds of people coming to it, and there's me with like 15 kids, and you were part of that group at that time, and I wondered. Anyway, I went to this conference thing in Brighton, and Mike Pilavacci was there, and one morning he came up to me and he said, I've been thinking about you, and I was praying about you this morning, and I thought this kind of idea came to me that if you will dedicate yourself to the few youngsters that you have there, they'll actually bring joy to you when you get old. And I remember thinking, wow, that was a pivotal time because I was comparing myself with, you know, Soul Survivor. I mean, as you know, there was 10,000 people would come to their events and stuff, you know, and here I was with just a few youngsters, you know, to kind of look after. And so anyway, I took that to heart, and I just decided that I would really just invest myself in those few that were there. And it has been a joy, you know, to see like yourself and so many actually that I could name off who I'm just so proud of, and I just look and think, yeah, that was worth the investment every week showing up there. And you know, it was, you know, it was fun. There was hard times in many ways for me. There's a lot going on in my own life, but I really think that that's a key thing actually, to just concentrate on what God has put in front of you and not think about visions of grandeur, you know. And yeah, so I just wanted to share that because it came to my mind last night as I was thinking about our time with you in the youth and and all that.
Yeah. Some amazing moments with. So we got a few people watching. We should mention Scott Jones,
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh man, don't mention the swimming pool.
Don't mention the swimming pool. And they were special times, and just with Toby Deans as well leading worship.
Yeah,
really, just like a few of us in that room, in that church in Thermere.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and just some amazing times for me in getting to know the Holy Spirit.
Yeah,
and sort of, yeah, just like you say, it's like nobody knew what was going on there, and it was to everybody else, probably nobody really cared what was going on in there.
Yeah,
but they were really special times.
Oh yeah, we were. Yeah, there's some special people there. I think, remember Susie Marsden as she was? She's married.
Yeah,
she beautiful girl, and I remember her, doing all that stuff in Romania and stuff. So many good people, and Jessie, who's now in America, there, married and still doing her music and stuff. And Noel. Yeah, so many good people. It's
amazing.
Yeah, it could go on and on.
Like, there's a couple of weird things like that happened. So you talked about Mike having a word for you.
Yeah.
A prophetic word, and how those, when God speaks, it can really do something in you, can't it, when you share that with somebody? And I often think back to a talk that you did at church, and you were talking about worship, and you were talking about a moment where the first time you had to lead worship on some mission trip or something.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us that story, because that's pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty freaky time. Yeah, so I was asked to go with some friends of mine we went to this place called Kardakut in southern Hungary, and our idea was to go there. I think there was 9 guys, and we went there, and we were going to build some washrooms for an old folks home there. Some old people that were actually helping people who were drug addicted and stuff. And so anyway, we went along, and I was asked to go and bring my guitar. I could play the guitar. So, and the idea was I would lead some songs with the 9 of us in the mornings. That was the extent of it. I'd never really done worship outside of that before, except just playing along a bit at church with other people and stuff like that. But anyway, so we're in this place, and when we get there's this big tent that we're all setting up, and probably about 200 or 300 people tent this outside, and then the request came, hey, would you be able to lead the worship for this event? We've got, I think, 200 or 300 pastors coming from different parts of Eastern Europe, and there's no one to lead the music, so I wonder if you could do it, and I was terrified. I was like, no, I've never done that before. I don't know how to do it. I don't even know any songs. I had a book with some songs in, but I didn't know many songs. So anyway, eventually I did it, and so I had 2 songs in my mind. One was "This Is the Day," that old, I don't know if you remember that song, but we used to do the kind of charismatic 2-step to it. It was kind of funny, hop on one leg and stuff, and then the other one was "Hallelujah, Hallelujah, Hallelujah." Well, the second one was great because I only had one word, so I could remember the lyrics pretty good. So I started with the first song, and it went down pretty good. There's all these people singing, and a lot of people in Eastern Europe knew this song, so the language wasn't a problem. And then we launched into the next one, Hallelujah, and I thought, well, I'm really going to draw this out, because I got like 20 minutes to fill, and I've already done one song, and now I've got another 10 minutes to go or something. So I was singing this song, and then all of a sudden, I mean, this was quite an amazing experience. The Holy Spirit came in that tent, and in a very powerful, tangible way. I mean, Holy Spirit's everywhere all the time, but I mean, it came in with a real strong presence, and there was these barrels with planks on them where everyone was sitting on these kind of oil barrel things, and literally everyone in the tent just kind of like fell backwards, and it looked like a bomb had gone off. Really, it was like really scary for me because I'd never seen anything like that before. And I literally put the guitar down and I ran out of the tent because I was so scared of what had happened. Because it looked really weird. I was singing one minute, and the next thing you know, everyone's laying on the floor, all freaking out. So I ran out, and that was a very kind of weird experience. And I remember getting back to St. Albans, where I lived at the time, and the pastor there said he heard what happened, and he said, it was quite something. I said, oh, it was terrible. Everyone fell over, and it was terrible. And he said, no, that wasn't terrible. That's kind of like good.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so anyway, yeah, that was my actual introduction to kind of corporate worship, I guess, I've always had an expectation. I mean, God doesn't always move in that kind of a way, but I've had an expectation that God will actually meet with people when you worship Him. That was a good way to learn that.
Yeah. It's like when you read, we just had Pentecost, haven't we? And it's like those kind of moments where, I was 94, I think, when I came to Vineyard, and there was lots of weird stuff going on in the churches, and it was pretty scary for me. But at the same time, it was a bit of a relief that something was actually happening in the church.
Right. Yeah.
I think in my cantankerous phase, where I would argue and make Christians cry and stuff like that, I'd been to a few churches with my sister. Mainly. Well, I've been to one. I've been to the Upper Room.
Yeah. I remember Sonia, right?
Yeah, Sonia took me there for her birthday party, and she took all her friends there for her birthday.
Good old Sonia.
Yeah. And the other one was a bit more of a sort of really straight church where there wasn't much music, and the preaching was quite down on people, quite sin focused. And that really rubbed me up the wrong way.
Yeah.
Nobody likes to hear that, however true it might be.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting. So when I was really in that phase of being really hungry for the Lord, it was quite amazing to see things were actually happening in a place, because I sort of thought if God existed, there must be something would happen, like it wouldn't just be a belief system, but there'd be something actually.
Yeah, like a tangible expression kind of thing. Like, it's funny. I could talk a lot about those times of the freakiness. Because some of that stuff has been cause for a lot of kind of trauma in my life as well, as I've gone over in years afterwards. I definitely believe that there was good things in that, but there was also some excesses that I look at now, and I kind of think, like some of it was just weird, and but in other ways, I've settled a long time ago that God is weird. You know what I mean? And if you try and tame God, then you've missed the whole point. I remember I felt like God talked to me one day, and He said, I make butterflies and I make hippopotamuses. And that's kind of like says it all, really, to me. It's like I remember being at the zoo and seeing this hippopotamus once. And the zookeeper threw an enormous melon, like the biggest melon you've ever seen, and threw it at this hippopotamus, and it opened its mouth and just went pop. And the juice went all over us in the crowd, and that was then that I felt like God said to me, I make butterflies and I make these beasts, Get used to it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting.
You've got quite a unique relationship with God, you know, like
Yeah.
I can remember another mad thing was being in the Czech Republic, which I know we both kind of have a deep love for that place and those people.
Absolutely.
And I remember you teaching on creativity, and you were talking about the importance of creating stuff, and that it doesn't have to be like it doesn't have to have a Bible verse on it to speak about who God is.
Yeah, right.
And you were getting quite weird talking about like creatures at the bottom of the sea that no one would ever see.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Things that no human eye would ever lay hold on.
Yeah.
But God still made them, you know.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
You reminded me there of my own beliefs. Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Well, it's true because like the ocean is, even though it's part of our Earth, it's still the most unexplored area of our Earth, right? And there are depths of it that are difficult to plummet, even with the stuff we have today to do that. And there are animals and stuff down there that God made, and he clearly made them for himself, because none of us have ever seen them, you know what I mean? So and I think we're too full of ourselves a lot of the time, you know what I mean? And I mean, look at the universe, the expanse of it, you know, and just think, you know, like we got a stupid little telescope that we can see little things, but it's like it goes on and on and on, and you just think, wow, imagine the life that's out there that God enjoys, but we never see it, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that keeps me really humble when I think about that stuff, because I realize that God made us for his pleasure, first of all, you know what I mean? And yes, he sees what we do in secret, but he actually loves it, because it's part of who he made us to be, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I hope I'm always freaky when I think about God, you know, because yeah, and that's probably why I found it kind of hard to fit in churches a lot of the time, because I do think of kind of freaky stuff, you know. It's not necessarily what's the word, like you know, erroneous or something. It's just I like to just think about things from an artistic point of view sometimes, you know what I mean? And I've noticed that in most churches they actually don't give two monkeys about the arts, you know what I mean? And it's a shame, because the arts is how God often communicates himself. I mean, he makes sunsets and we look at it and it's like beautiful, and he's always speaking to us through artistic things, you know. And I went to this church a little while ago, and this guy, I was looking forward to going there. I won't say where it was because of what I'm about to say about it, but the man who ran the church was someone who I've admired for many years as a writer. His books are absolutely incredible. I absolutely love them. And so I was really looking forward to going there to do some music at this place. And I remember walking in to the place, and the first thing that struck me was really something very beautiful, because I said, oh, where's this guy? And they said, well, there he is there. He's setting all the chairs up, you know. And immediately I thought, well, that's really great, because I would have thought that maybe given his stature as a writer, he'd be a bit below him to be putting chairs out and stuff. So that really touched me. But then the second thing, and I actually said it to him, I said, given how creative your writing is and how beautiful it is, this church looks like an elephant's ass, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing artistic about this place at all. There's nothing beautiful here. The walls are just grey, and you just hang a tail up above the flipping altar, and it looked like a big arse, like, you know what I mean? And it didn't go down very well, as you can imagine. But it really struck me, like, you know what I mean? I thought it's such a shame that this space doesn't look beautiful. It doesn't look artistic. It doesn't speak of God, like, you know what I mean? So anyway, never got invited back.
Yeah, I was going to say that was the beginning of a beautiful ministry relationship.
Yeah, it's the truth, though. Yeah, he hasn't included me in his books.
This one is dedicated to Graham Ord.
Yeah, the elephant's ass. I said it in my own church as well, and I painted it. I actually painted it beautiful and made it look really nice. And then I had to leave that church, and then they turned it back to grey after that. So that was a bit of a shame. But there you go. You move on. Yeah. Funny.
Yeah, so a lot of us, I think there's a massive temptation, isn't there, as a musician or an artist, to only see what you do as important if you're getting recognition or money or success from it. And that kind of goes against the heart of God, really, towards people, because it makes people feel less than and just, yeah, a bit sort of humiliated, you know, when it's not valued.
Right.
And that's, you know, in one way it's difficult, isn't it? Because a lot of us are trying to function to a certain extent within an industry which is all about that kind of stuff. So how have you sort of navigated that journey of self-worth, I guess, and valuing what you do, but not being taking yourself too seriously?
Yeah. Well, a few years ago, we have a mutual friend, I think, Martin Neal, the drummer, Martin. And Martin used to play with us when we were in the Wesley Brothers sometimes. He was one of our 13 drummers who were all self-combusted. Anyway, he would come along to practice with us and did a few shows with us. And he used to, one thing that really impressed me about him, I mean, obviously he's drumming and he's a lovely person, but the other thing is just he used to bring everything, his whole kit to all the practices, no matter what we were doing. So, you know, I saw him, did some things with him with Kevin Prosh, and he would have this ridiculous kit that he had, you know, and but he used to bring his setup to the practices and stuff. And one day I was talking with Martin about this, and he said to me, he said, you know, I serve the soup at the Salvation Army on Saturdays, and he said I actually enjoy that more than I do playing. And it really struck me, because I really looked up to him, and it really spoke to me about values, you know. And so then I remember him telling a story once. He came out to Canada and stayed with us here for a while here, and he told the story of how he went to the Ivory Coast, and he studied under one of the top drummers there, who was actually a drummer to the king, kind of thing, like, you know. And when there were state visits, he would get asked to come and drum and stuff. And one day, this drummer who Martin was studying under, he said to him, "We have a gig today." And Martin, you know, not really thinking straight, he kind of said, "Oh, where is it?" And he said, "Oh, it's to some widows and homeless women and stuff, you know what I mean? We're going to go and play for them." And Martin, I mean, he just wasn't thinking straight, or thinking as perhaps we might in our culture. He said, "So, what's the pay? How much are we getting to do this?" And then the drummer just kind of looked at him and he said to him, our pay is to play. And that statement has actually been a statement that's fueled me ever since I heard it. I've always thought about it, and every time I play, I realize that we actually have a call as musicians to be hope bringers to our community and to our society, and the pay is to play. It is, and so if someone asks me to do a funeral, I'll go and do a funeral. If they ask me to do a wedding, I'll go and do a wedding. I've played for the Prime Minister of Canada. That was amazing. I prayed for the Premier of BC. That was amazing. I've played for homeless people. I played for drug addicted women. You know what I mean? To me, it's like that. To me, is like what it's all about. And every time I play, I always say a little prayer. May this bring hope, and may this help someone want to get up tomorrow in the morning. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I mean, it's great to get paid, but I think I really have found over the years that the reward is not really in the money. You know what I mean? Or in the recognition. You know, the recognition comes and goes, and you know, it's nice. People say, "Oh, that was amazing," and all that, but I think the pay it looks very different. And I think even the most successful artists, you know, your Justin Biebers and that, would probably say the same as well. They'd probably say, yeah, the money's great, but it's the little things when you just do something that's unknown and it really touches your heart, and that's what's important, you know. So yeah, so dear old Martin, he had a big influence on me in a way. He probably doesn't even know that, but it actually really affected me, and it changed my life actually, hearing those stories. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that again is just also valuing people, isn't it? Above our sort of egos, wanting to be this or that.
Yeah, I remember, you know, in the height of my, I used to do all these conferences and stuff, you know, and I was pretty famous in that for a little while, and I used to be at these things, and there'd be, you know, 5,000 people there or more, and whatever, and you'd really think you were quite something when you were up there doing your thing. And I remember there was always a green room at these events, you know, and I always used to just say, if it's okay, I'd just like to line up for the food with everyone else at the conference, you know. And people in the conference often used to say to me, "Oh, you don't often see the people doing the music and that," you know. And I'm like, "Yeah, but I just want to hang out with you guys, you know what I mean? I'm just the same as you. I just happen to have a piece of wood with 6 strings on it, you know what I mean? I did my hair today, you know what I mean? Like, you know." Yeah, people are all that matters, actually, Mark. You know that.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter much. You know, like when you go through the toughest times, it's like your family are there, right? And you know, and your kids and that, you know, and yeah, at the end of the day, you know, like. I don't know if you know this, but for the last 7 years or so, I've worked a lot with homeless people. So I belong to a community now called Metro, and we really try and support people who don't have houses and stuff, and that actually has been my salvation in many ways as a Christian, because I've actually realized that. Like, this is a funny thing, right? They were singing the songs that I wrote in this church, and I think it was 5 years or so, 4 or 5 years, one of the worship leaders came up to me and he said to me, "I'm so embarrassed." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, we've been singing these songs that you wrote for all these years. I didn't even know you were in the church, you know." And I said to him, I can't even tell you how refreshing that is for me, because it's not about personalities. It's about Jesus at the end of the day. Who cares who wrote the song? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's like the songs are a gift anyway, aren't they? And it's like the it's a mad, amazing thing. One of the things I nearly said this earlier, but I think I got distracted. But there was one time in church when you preached, and you were talking about worship, and you told the story, you know, your first time leading worship and stuff. And then you talked about songwriting, and you said that you felt the Lord was saying that there was people in the room who were going to write songs that would touch the world and would go around the world. And probably the church was, I don't know, like, I can't remember, maybe 150 people, maybe a bit more, I don't know. It wasn't big, it wasn't a big group of people. And then just thinking about, it's quite a mad thing, because actually that's really happened for quite a few of us who were there in that room.
Yeah.
And there was no real way of that happening that I could see at that point in time. And I don't think I'd even written a worship song before. I think I was writing stuff, you know, rock stuff. And
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
You think about, you know, Jesse was there, and Sam, myself, Henry.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool actually, just to think about that. You know, another aspect to that though that I've been thinking about is so in the early days of I became a believer in 1982, right? And at that time there weren't that many songs really. We had a book, and there was quite a few hymns that had been written for, you know, hundreds of years, and then there was there wasn't an industry of worship like there is now, you know. So we would go to this annual conference thing, like in a tent, called the Downs Bible Week or something like that it was called, and then we would learn, you know, I don't know, 25 songs or something, and those songs became the songs that you kind of sang for that year, kind of thing. You know, that's what it used to be like. And so writing songs was a real way of expressing what was going on in your community. You know what I mean? It became an important thing of just like documenting what was happening in your community and stuff, you know. So, and there was a real purity about it, because there wasn't any way of making any money from it. It was just like you just sang them and whatever. But it's an interesting thing now, because it's become very personality driven and very business driven, and you know, I've actually been part of that worship business thing in the past as well, and so I kind of know how it works, and it kind of ruined me really for worship in many ways, because I don't see it as such a pure thing anymore as I used to. Although I know there is pure worship, I know also that it's a money-driven industry, you know, as well. But the point I want to make in this is that I think there is a place for the documentation of local worship, and I think that's what we did when we were in Vineyard there in St Albans. We had no way of getting those songs out there at that time, right?
No.
We were documenting what was happening to us, and I really hope that there's a return to that, you know, like the whole, you know, looking at the CCLI list to see what's all popular and that, you know what I mean? It's all well and good, and it does gather people together, but at the same time, it really is taken away from the documentation of what's going on. I mean, if you think about it, how many worship songs are there about, let's say, divorce? How many worship songs are there about Black Lives Matter? You know, how many worship songs are there about the homosexuality issue? You know, like there's none, hardly. and yet is God not interested in that? Is that not something that he wants to express and that we should express to God, but because it doesn't sell records, it's not on them.
Yeah.
So there we go. There's now is the next reason why I won't get signed up to Bethel right there.
I've got this like planning software thing I use for finding songs, and the first thing that comes up are like the most popular songs.
Oh yeah.
So when you're like, if you're being a bit lazy, and you just kind of you go on there, it's like the temptation is like it suggests to you what you should sing.
Oh wow, that's good.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything. Just click on those top 4.
Wow, that's good. Yeah.
I'll send you a link later.
Well,
yours isn't on there, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's funny that.
But I think you're really hitting on something, and I think like some of the songs that we were singing that you wrote in that time, songs like "In You," and "Fill Me Up" for playing that one.
Yeah.
And "You're So Wonderful," and an amazing one was "Creation Proclaims That You're Mighty," which was just very different than anything that was going on. They were definitely songs that were saying something to us.
Yeah.
I think especially "In You" for me was kind of a place you could actually go to and say things to God that weren't particularly being said in other songs at the time.
Yeah.
Or even now, and just brilliant.
Yeah. It's funny though. Like, I don't want to go into all this too much, but the the charismania, right, for me, did end up with me quite traumatized, really, and I came out of it. I didn't actually realize it took a friend of mine who helped me walk through it over a few years, and he said to me, "I think you're actually suffering from post-traumatic stress, from that time." And what it did as well was that it actually shut me down creatively completely, really. And I didn't really write anything. And the reason I didn't write was not because I wasn't thinking about anything anymore. It's just I lost the courage to write about those kind of things that actually really matter, because I wanted to remain kind of positive and not speak ill of people. But at the same time, I just lost the courage to be able to say much about that was actually of any importance, and so I just didn't say anything. Became a sideman for a few years, and that was a shame, So I'm hoping to find that voice again, because I think I was listening to a Nina Simone song yesterday that a friend of mine posted on Facebook, and it was about being a black person and living in a kind of a racist situation. Nina Simone, with her amazing voice, singing this thing. It's not one of the most popular songs, but I didn't even know it existed. But when I heard it, I thought that's actually one of the most amazing and important pieces of music that I've heard for many years. You know what I mean? And I really think that, I honestly think that us as writers, if we actually write and have the courage to write what's actually in our hearts, instead of just being cheerleaders, I think the world would realize, oh, that's who Jesus is. Yeah, I get it. You know what I mean? Yeah, I didn't know he was interested in stuff like that. Our dear old friend Dave Moore, who he doesn't live far from me now, which is great, but anyway, he always used to say, we only sing the last 2 lines of the Psalms.
Yeah.
we don't sing the first 50 lines. We only sing the last two, you know. And so yeah, I think that's because the Psalms are full of that stuff, aren't they? You know, they're full of all the emotion that human beings go through, and the pain and the joy, the questionings. And it's all there, you know. So I'm hoping to find that again, that kind of courage to write. But it's been about 10 years. It's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that I haven't got anything to say. It's just I lost the courage to say it.
Yeah. Well, there's a song you can write about that, maybe.
Yeah. Been writing some new songs lately with my dad.
Yeah, you're working on an album with him, right?
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, he's in the UK, and because he's at the age where he kind of has to stay in a lot, you know, and so I knew it was going to do him in, if poor guy, to be stuck in all day. So I said, well, why don't we make a record together? So we've been writing this record, and it's been really great, you know. And yeah,
Lane Stevens.
Yeah, it's been really cool. I think you might call himself Mighty Ord on this one, because it really is him, you know, playing the blues. Yeah, it's great. So yeah,
I remember your dad is the only guy I've seen who's like, more bass on the mic, please. More bass now. We need more bass for this song.
Oh, should I tell you a funny story about my dad? So, you know, he has his own kind of faith, you know, like, and he's not really a church goer, but I was doing this gig in this festival, and it was an outdoor thing in a big kind of like a horse arena thing, you know, and so we're playing away, and he got up and sang with us, and he's playing the harmonica and singing and that, you know, and so he comes off the stage and he has to walk back through the crowd to get back to the bleachers where he sat, right? So so he's not used to the Christian talk or anything, right? He doesn't know anything about that stuff. So he's walking back to his place, and there's all these people going, "Oh, brother, that was so anointed," you know. It was like, and my dad at the end of the night, he said to me, "Yeah, a lot of people seem to enjoy it." He said, "But what is it? What's this? It was so anointed thing." I don't know what that means. I was just playing the harmonica.
Yeah.
It's a great one, eh?
Brilliant.
Yeah, he just had no idea what it meant, you know. Oh, it was brilliant.
It's really weird, isn't it? Because I remember when I started to sort of lead worship more, went from playing guitar to leading worship.
Yeah.
Turned into a front man, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And I remember doing some of the Vineyard conferences and feeling a bit guilty because I was just sort of rocking out, you know.
Yeah, doing your thing, mate. Yeah.
And after thinking, like, I think I was just doing a gig there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I totally get that, Mike, because it's like, really, like, I know the focus is different, but at the end of the day, it's the same gift. It's the same you. It's the same, you know, like, you're doing your thing, aren't you? You know what I mean? And we do over spiritualize it a bit, I think. You know what I mean? And you know, the way I look at it is with worship leading is you use your kind of charisma for the first like 20 seconds, and then the idea is you just get out of the way after that, like, you know what I mean? I remember being in St. Albans one time, and I got reprimanded for throwing my guitar up in the air in the worship, you know what I mean, and catching it and stuff. And I remember saying to Natalia, my wife, "What did you think about what I did?" And she looked at me really funny. She goes, "What did you do?" And I said, "Well, you know, that people are getting mad at me for throwing my guitar up in the air, and so they said I'm being a showman and whatever." And she looked at me and she said, "Graham, I wasn't looking at you." And I thought, that's the response that it should be like, you know what I mean? Get your eyes
My
off.
own wife.
Yeah, it was great. That's why I married her. Yeah, so cool, you know.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I I think it sometimes, well, performing can be very vulnerable, and when you you know, you can come away from things feeling like you've kind of taken your clothes off or something in front of everyone.
Oh yeah.
And if you get like sometimes getting a negative, I think when people you feel like they've missed your heart, that's quite difficult, because we live from our hearts, you know. It's like everything we do kind of comes from that place.
Yeah.
And we sort of, vulnerability is so powerful, but it is that you are making yourself vulnerable.
Yeah.
And when you're vulnerable, someone can, do you know what I mean, in that moment.
Yeah. I think as well, it's there is a theological part to that as well, and people's understanding. You know, like the other day I was listening to someone talk about how like it's all, the only good in us really is God, kind of thing, like, you know what I mean, and that it's all about God, and it's, you know, we just kind of get out of the way and got, you know, and to me it's like, well, why didn't God make us with a brown paper bag on our head then? Like, you know what I mean? With just some eyes cut out of it, like, you know what I mean? Walk around like this androgynous kind of thing with a bag on our head, like, you know what I mean? It's like, no, yeah, of course it is, you know, grace and salvation, all that. That's all God. It's all through grace and all that. I absolutely get that. We can't earn it. We can't do anything for it. But then the reason why I believe he made us is for us to actually express something of him, like, you know what I mean? And that expression, us being absolutely true to ourselves, is the best form of worship that we can give, you know. So for some people, they're really good at dancing. Dance, you know, don't cut your legs off and then say, well, I'm really being holy because I haven't got any legs now, you know what I mean? Or if you're good looking, put a bag on your head or something, you know. If you're a guitar player, don't bother tuning up before, because you don't want to sound too good, you know. Like, to me, that's a theological thing that needs to be taught better, I think, you know what I mean, because it destroys artistic people. I remember someone saying to me once, I'd like to pray for you, you know, and I'm like, oh, cool, you know, and this is where you have to be careful with people praying for you, right? But this guy then said to me, I see a spirit of performance in you. And I said, awesome, can you pray for more of that? Because I knew where he was going with it, right? And he was not happy with that. He, you know, that showed him even more that I was just a performer, you know what I mean, and whatever. And it's such an indictment to someone who is creative and who has a heart, because what it's saying, because performance in that sense means you're acting, you're not real. It's disingenuous, but it's like, no, I am a performer, but that's because God made me like that, you know what I mean? And I want to be more of one. You know, I don't want to become lesser. I don't want to become like him.
No.
You know what I mean? So anyway,
my little girl is a performer. She's like me, and it's not it. I think for me, like, a lot of performance came out of wanting people to like me and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wanting to be loved, or wanting to have something I was good at, and I could fit in, and all that kind of thing. But for her, she's so young, and it's just like something in her, you know, like even turning a camera on and saying, okay, Lainey, now do something. Just be right there with it.
Yeah.
And to say that's not that's a bad thing, or that, you know, like, you know, oh, there's nothing good in you, but that's not my experience. And even this sort of thing of, you know, we can project that onto our kids, can't we? Like, oh, there's nothing good in you. You know, that's a horrible thing to say to a kid. And I don't think God says that to us, you know.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of that in some circles, isn't there, of Western Christianity, like the shaming of the savage, or the this kind of horrible, like, the heart is deceitful above all, you know, and above all things wicked, you know.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's where it comes from. And it's kind of understanding of that. And I think that's relating to the deceptiveness of sin, really, not necessarily the beauty that's in us, because I do agree with the fact we are capable of incredible evil, like the issue of this racism thing, right? When I was brought up as a child, because I do agree with this idea that racism comes from teaching from when you're a child. You know what I mean? So I heard a lady say the other day, you're not born with a gene of racism. You know what I mean? And it's taught to you, and you pick it up. But when I was a child, I remember we had a boy from Uganda came to our school, and in the mid-60s, that was very unusual. There wasn't any black kids in our school, and so my brother, he was teasing him, and he was calling him names and stuff. So my mum heard about this, and she took my brother back to the school the next day, and she took him to this boy, and she said to him, I want you to call him names and see if he likes it. And of course he didn't want to, he felt really weird, and my mum said, yeah, just call him Milky Bar Kid, see if he likes that, you know what I mean? And so this little kid, like, Milky Bar Kid, my brother burst into tears, and my mum said to him, see, that's what it feels like, you know what I mean? And that's out of order, like, you know what I mean? And so we were taught that as kids, you know what I mean? That that's just something that's totally wrong, you know what I mean? And I think that's a really important thing to this whole thing. I forget exactly where I was going with that, but it was good up to there.
Yeah, just kids, and they're awesome.
Yeah, and that's it. And I think that children, that kind of like the goodness that's in kids. I was talking to my little girl last night, and I said, "What do you think about this racism thing?" And it's really cool to talk to children, because they don't even get it, like, you know what I mean, like, unless they've been brought up with it, you know what I mean. But like she said to me, I just think we're all the same, like we have different family backgrounds, but as people we're all the same, and there was my one, Jesse, right?
Mm-hmm.
He when he was about 6, he was in school, and someone had stolen his lunch or something, and he in Vancouver there's a lot more people of different colors and races and stuff there, and so Natalia, my wife, was trying to figure out who stole it, and what were they wearing? I don't remember. Well, what color skin did they have? Were they have brown skin or white skin? And I remember Jesse looking at it as a 6-year-old, and he had absolutely no idea. It wasn't even something that computed with him at all. It wasn't something that defined someone. I thought, that's so beautiful. That's how it should be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool guy, isn't he?
Oh, and he's still got so much compassion and stuff, and but yeah, it's that's an important thing.
Yeah. And you've got 7 kids, right?
Yeah.
And your youngest is, I think, Lemmy's age, is she?
12.
12. Yeah, Lemmy's turning 12 soon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great, eh? She likes to sing.
Yeah. And Karis sings beautiful.
Yeah, they're all playing music, actually, in different ways, so it's pretty good. Yeah.
Is it Aaron that you still playing together?
Yeah. We haven't done much in this pandemic time.
It's been tricky, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a real bummer. Yeah, I even went on the internet one day and sang a song. It was really weird.
Yeah.
You do it a lot, but I was just
doing it a lot.
It's really weird. Yeah, I didn't know if anyone was watching. There were always people like, "Oh, it sounded good. Where's the rest?" And like, oh, yeah, that was so nerve-wracking just doing one.
It's really weird, isn't it? It's really weird doing the live streams.
Yeah,
but been getting some good feedback from it. So that's
Well,
good.
good at it, man. And I think a lot, what I notice about the people listening to you is that people are really encouraged by it, you know, and it's really nice, you know.
Yeah, that's
People
been
are
really good.
yeah, it's a bit of a lifeline for people, you know. It's good.
Yeah, and for me actually as well, it's been helpful
That's very
to
good.
have an outlet and a focus and
Yeah, that's like
worship. You know, to worship God and feel that connection with people.
yeah, it's really good.
I really miss people.
Yeah, that's the worst part, isn't it? Yeah, I'm a real people person. I like being in front of people and you know get the reaction from people and stuff. You know,
Yeah,
like I don't know about you, but I just love seeing people dancing and stuff. You know,
yeah.
like like when I play in a band called Swamp Honey, right? And it's a freaky show, man. I tell you, we're like a jam band.
Mm.
So we were asked to do something for the food bank the other day, and they wanted us to do 3 or 4 songs, and they had to last for 12 minutes. And we were just like, that's not even one song for us. 12 minutes. We just get past the intro. Yeah, but you know,
you play bass in that, don't you? Sometimes.
no, that was a different band. Yeah, I played the bass.
Oh.
Yeah, I stooped pretty low. No, I'm only joking. That was
just lazy. That's just lazy, isn't it?
Dave, if he was listening. You know, Dave Moore doesn't even play the bass anymore. He plays guitar now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was always good on the guitar.
Oh, he's not bad.
Yeah, he's not great.
Oh. I'm only joking.
He's not terrible.
No. Most of the lyrics I know, I learned from Dave.
Yeah.
It's true. Oh dear, it's a bummer when the bass player is better than you.
Yeah.
On the guitar.
Bass is such an underrated instrument, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Mysterious art.
Yes, it
Not
really
easy
is.
to do at all.
Well, in Swamp Honey, we don't have a bass player. We have a cellist. And when we first started playing, Nils, his name is, he was on this cello and he was like, oh, I'm going to bring my bass and stuff. And me and my other buddy, Dylan, who's in the band, me and him were like, nah, the cello's the vibe, man. You got to keep that cello. And he stands up and plays it with like a guitar with a strap and stuff. He looks right freak when he's playing it. Right? You know, it's really cool. So anyway, we got him we suggested he gets it. We didn't have the money to buy him one, but we got him one of these octave pedals. So now he's like on the cello. It's just so cool. Like, you know what I mean? It's freaky, man. And people don't know what it is. They're like, is that a bass or a cello or what is it? You know, it's like, yeah, it's really cool. So yeah, it's a good band. But like I said, I just like seeing people freaking out and dancing and stuff. You know, it's so good, and I miss that. Don't see it on the internet, do you?
No.
It's yourself, in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Like I can see my hair, and I'm trying to make it right, and I keep going to the wrong side.
Yeah, I was just doing that.
Terrible. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
I just don't like it. Yeah, so yeah, it's good, man. I like talking to you, Mark. You're a good man. Is there anything else we need to cover in the world of?
Well, we've done most things, haven't we? We should probably. There's been a lot of people leaving all kinds of messages.
Oh, is there? Go on,
Yeah.
let's do one.
So we've got Caroline and Laura Thane.
Oh yeah, I love that girl. Oh, Caroline was in our youth group.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's changed her name now because she got married. Right, that's her.
I don't know if that's the same one, but anyway, let's move on. Anyway, yeah, Jesse is on here.
What does she write?
No, you're Jesse Ord.
Oh no, what's he writing?
Great words from the big A of West Rutland.
Oh, that's a story in itself, Marcos. Do you want to hear that one?
Yeah.
I'll tell you that one in a minute. You tell me a few more things first. I've got to see if I can embellish.
Dave Gillette is on here. Tracy Moore says, I'm not a racist. That's good to know.
Hallelujah.
Chris Henston was saying that you were a big influence on him.
Oh, he was
in the old days.
Is he still a policeman?
I don't know.
Didn't he? He used to be a policeman, didn't he?
I'm not sure. And Mark Brislin is on here as well. Hi, Graham, bro. How you doing, Mark? Good to see you. Keep up the press ups.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah, he was.
Mark Brislin. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
He's over in Germany now. He's in near Dresden.
Oh yeah, he's a nice lad. He was around in the early days of the Vineyard when we were at Marlborough, I think.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool.
Henry Cross has been on here, and Emma Mould, who's a new friend of mine, who's a brilliant singer.
Nice.
And Andy Stevens as well. What a lovely treat to have you both on the screen at the same time.
Andy Stevens. Oh my goodness.
Fiona as well.
His dad was a big influence on me in my early days. He was a lovely man. Alan Stevens. Yeah. Full of joy he was. Really, a good man. Well, I'll tell you.
We're over an hour. Are you going to tell me the story of the Big A?
Only if it's relevant to anything, you know what I mean?
Not to me.
It would just annoy a few religious people, but
well then.
It's a funny one. Yeah, I'll try and think of it without defaming anyone. Well, the basic idea, right, is that some of the abuses of the charismania is such that the self-proclamation of apostleship and people thinking that they're a prophet, you know what I mean, and that they're an apostle and that they're whatever. And it still annoys me when people say, they say Pastor Graham or something like that, you know what I mean? Or I mean, I'm just like, if you're going to call me Pastor Graham, I'm going to call you Mechanic Mike then, you know what I mean? It's like, yeah, it's so stupid. Anyway, that whole thing. So in our situation, we had a bit of a thing where, you know, there was all of that kind of stuff going on. So I thought, well, how am I going to kind of take the piss out of this? Like, you know what I mean? Because it's so ridiculous. So I prayed about it, and I felt like I should make a shirt, and on that shirt I wrote the Big A of West Rutland. Well, Rutland, where I live, there is no West Rutland really, technically, so that was a joke in itself. And then the idea of me proclaiming myself to be an apostle went down really well, as you can imagine. So and I actually started subscriptions as well. You could pay $200 and you could become part of one of my minions, you know what I mean, as well. So so yeah, that's the Big A of West Rutland. That's the tamed down version. But yeah, it's good. Yeah. Wow. I seriously did pray about it, and I actually felt the laughter of God at it, how ridiculous it was, you know what I mean? And I felt his joy at my shirt. So that was good. I really did.
Nice.
Because I think he thinks it's ridiculous too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. It might not matter to you, but it mattered to me.
Yeah. It get a bit weird, doesn't it, at times? And I think it's kind of sad that a lot of people, I think if you carry the name Jesus, you know, if you carry the name Christian, Son of God, you know, that you follow Jesus, the Son of God, and that you actually believe in him, and you kind of carry his name, don't you? If you're a Christian, you kind of carry his name and you represent him. And that in one way is terrifying. It should be a little bit terrifying for us, right? Because the last thing we want to do, there's that really horrible thing where it says, because of you, God's name is blasphemed among the Gentiles. Do you know that intense bit of the Bible? Yeah. And obviously it's not talking about this specifically, but we don't want, you know, the last thing we want to do is sort of put people off by our own actions. And
do. Well, yeah, I mean, in this case, it was I find it blasphemous, actually, because you're attributing things to God that aren't anything to do with God. You know what I mean? And I think that's what it is. So taking his name in vain. You're giving things to God that aren't actually his. You know what I mean? And that's why I felt to just act so stupid about it. You know, and it was funny. And on one level, people enjoyed the humor of it. But for me, it was a lot more than that as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
But Callum Reese is just on here, and he's saying
yeah,
he's still waiting for his Big A membership card.
yeah, I'm waiting for his cash. It wasn't enough. He thought he could send me a couple of cans of O'Cannigans, but that's not enough. We need $200, my old man. That's a private joke between us. You've been over here, Mark, but we live in a place called the Okanagan, right? That's named after a lake. And when Callum first came to stay with us, we went to this pub for a drink, and he saw there's a beer called Okanagan Spring. Well, he thought it was an Irish beer called O'Canagan Spring. He lives in Canada now, you know.
Bring on the O'Cannigans.
He lives in Calgary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What amazing. We love you, Callum. You're amazing. Amazing person.
Oh, he's one of my dearest friends. Yeah, I love that man. Mm. Yeah, and he married one of our friends, which was beautiful too. Yeah, so him and Joyce, they're beautiful people.
Yeah, so cool. So cool.
Yeah, it's really good.
Right, man. Well, let's do one last thing, and then we'll stop the broadcast, and then we can just sort of have a little chin wag. But what advice would you have for musicians coming up? What would be have you got any nuggets of Ord wisdom?
Wow. I thought you said it was going to be a quick question.
Well, yeah, just small nuggets.
Good.
No, there's no time restriction other than.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. So, because I have, kids and that are all playing that, it's quite a common thing, really, in our household to think about this. But I think I teach guitar in a school, right? And I'm under no illusion that the kids are all going to end up as professional musicians. Some of them just play because they like playing. Some of them play because their parents want them to play and whatever. But one thing that I would say about it is I think for our mental health, it's really, really important to have creative outlets that are positive. So I go into a women's rehab place quite regularly, and I share with the ladies about creative and healthy ways to express yourself, because you're going to find ways to express yourself anyway, and sometimes they might be negative things, and they might be destructive. So I think one of the most important things about musicality is to just realize that when you just sit on the end of the bed and you just play, it doesn't really matter what level you're at. It's just like what is it that it's doing? It's actually giving you a voice. It's giving you an expression. It's giving you something outside of yourself that you can actually, treat yourself to. You know what I mean? And you'll know this, Mark, but it's weird being a performer, because the very thing that made you good, i.e. sitting in your room playing on your own because you were too scared to be in front of anyone else, and all those reasons that you said, you want to play because you want to be loved, you want to be recognized, you want to be whatever, but you're actually too scared to go out and do it, and you don't know how to receive it. So that's why you're a good guitar player, because you spent that time, and then you have to kind of like overcome that somehow to get in front of people. And remember how awful it felt the first time you did that, and it was like, I remember dying like the first time I got up in front of people. It was awful, and to this day I still get nervous. And so I think that's what I would say most of all, is like, find the joy in what you're doing, and if it becomes a career, that's a real bummer for you in some ways, you know what I mean? Because it's like, now you got to make money doing it as well,
Yeah.
it is a nice way to make a living, but being a musician full time is actually quite a hard life. You know, it's not easy, and the money isn't great for most of us. You know, but we do it because it's in you to do it. You know.
Yeah.
My dad used to say, if it's in you, it has to come out. You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's what I would say most. Find that joy in it, and if if you don't like playing, don't bother.
Yeah.
Something else that you do like, you know, buy a motorbike or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go with your passion.
Yeah.
I mean, I really appreciate. I really like more and more appreciate just playing.
Yeah.
And for exactly that reason. And the other thing for me is to write and to mess around in the studio, make things, most of which never see the light of day.
No.
But I honestly feel so close to God when I'm doing that. Like I feel like his pleasure, you know, and
yeah, that's right.
Just like for me, it's been really fun. I've always resisted going out and doing covers gigs.
Right. Yeah.
And then a few of my friends, like Dave here and Graham, and another couple of guys, were saying, "Oh, you know, just get out there and do it." And it's been brilliant. Just having that that sort of side to my life open up again, because I'm mainly working in church, and then it's like all of a sudden you're connecting again in that different world.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah, like that is good. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to do your own thing, and I think that's important, you know. But yeah, it's just the gift of being able to play music is, you know, and watch people dance and enjoy themselves is a beautiful thing, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's lovely, you know. And I mean, I'll tell you this: if I ever get asked to play at someone's funeral, I never refuse. You know what I mean? Because to me, it's like, wow, this is like, that is the most powerful expression of what music is for. Like, you know what I mean? To connect with people's raw emotion is like, that's where you really feel it. You know what I mean? And it's beautiful, you know, even though it can be sad.
It's so healing, though, isn't it? And music is a healer. It's
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
Even a communicator, you know, I think so. With all this mad stuff that's going on, you know, you could spend your time on the internet tweeting your opinions till, you know, cows come home. You'll never change someone's heart, really. But if you channel, you know, if you could channel your beliefs and the things that you know to be true, you know, then it's the heart that needs to change in people, and it's music is the language of the heart.
Yeah, music is definitely one of the. Like, I was listening to "What's Going On," you know, the other day by what's his name, the singer,
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah, Marvin Gaye. Yeah, and I remember I was just listening to it, and I thought, this is more than a song. You know, like this is a statement. It's a I don't know. It's a sermon. It's the best novel you've ever read. It's the best concert you've ever been to. It's the biggest political rally you've ever. And like there it is in one song. You know what's going on, and wow,
yeah,
you know, so powerful. That's why I was thinking about Simone's song as well. You know, like it was the same kind of thing. I was like, wow, that's such a statement. Huh? Really beautiful. Yeah, it's powerful. I remember going to see B.B. King play just before he died. He came out on the stage and he just did one note, you know, on his guitar, you know, and I burst into tears, you know. And my buddy who I was with, he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not." What's happened? I said, like 80 years of life just came out of that one note, you know.
Yeah.
Wow, it hit me
He's one of my favorite guitar players for sure.
It hit me like a freight train in the head, you know. And I remember just thinking, wow, that's it. That was worth the money to come for one note.
Yeah.
The rest was a bonus.
I would have loved to have seen him play. I was watching recently. I was watching his. He did an instructional video.
Oh, I've seen that with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Is that the one?
I'm not sure of it. No, it wasn't with Steve Ray Vaughan.
Oh.
This guy.
Yeah, it's funny because he doesn't know what he's doing, does he? He's only got 3 riffs.
And the guy's sitting there with like a real 80s guitar.
Yeah,
and a ponytail. And
I saw that.
It's kind of going, I really love that. The
really
way you go up in semitones to the. No, I do that. I just sound good to me. He's trying to pull it all apart.
He's trying to be way too technical.
And I just try and do what I like. It sounds good to me. So I do it.
Yeah, I just play, man.
He goes up with his pinky, like in semitones, which is just like the worst technique ever. He pulls them out, and you can see BB King's a little embarrassed, you know. He's sort of like, I guess I do just go with my pinky. It's like the instructional DVD could have been a lot shorter, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the 3.
Wow, how he does what, and his voice. I mean, one of my favorite voices, I think.
Yeah, he's often not thought of as a singer, is he? But he is an amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was just thinking, like, going to see him. It was really beautiful because one of the things he did was he called up all the children that were in the crowd. They all came to the front of the stage, and this was in the big arena in town here. And he came to the front of the stage, and he gave all the children gifts. He gave them jewelry and watches and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, what he's doing, he's passing it on. You know, he really, really understands the thing of passing it on, you know. And you know, that was amazing, like, you know what I mean? Just to see that, you know.
And I get aware of his mortality and
yeah, I know. Beautiful. Yeah, it really was. It was really quite something, really. You know,
is you know the U2 film where they do a song with BB King.
Yeah.
And there's a whole verse about, I was there when they crucified my Lord, and all that. Yeah, mighty heavy lyrics for a young guy.
And then the Edge is trying to show him the chords, and he's like, I don't play no chords, I just play leads.
I have another guy who plays the chords.
But, you know, I want to just tell you something here, right? And this would be good for you because you'll get it, right? And it's part of us passing on what we have, right? But I went to see Buddy Guy, and Buddy Guy is, those of us who play guitar would know that Buddy Guy is the originator of much music that we love in the blues. You know, like Jimi Hendrix was totally emulating Buddy Guy. When Stevie Ray Vaughan, all the greats really have learned from Buddy Guy, and he was playing in our just up the road from us in the next town over. And I went to see him. And again, it was a very emotional experience, you know, to be there to see this man who is like the godfather of it all, really, in many ways. And anyway, he came off the stage and he walked through the crowd, right, playing his guitar, just wailing on this strat, you know, wailing on it. And lo and behold, right, he comes right up to me and he's in my face, like this close to me, right? And he's just standing, looking in my eyes, wailing away, just looking right at me, like, yeah, pick up some shit, baby. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, and it was like an impartation, Mark. It was like, I know in spiritual terms you'd call that like the laying on of hands or whatever, right? But it was so powerful. And I remember feeling like, whoa, something happened there. I'm emotional telling that story because it was like, wow.
You need to lay hands on me now.
I know. It was so powerful. He came right out of the crowd, walked right up to me, and just stood right in front of me doing that. I was like, wow.
And what is that as well?
I don't know, mate. Yeah, I know.
What's driving him? Is that the Spirit of God, you know, drawing him to you?
I don't know. I felt like it was like an impartation of God. You know what I mean? That's what it felt like. You know what I mean? It was beautiful.
I'm looking forward to your new blues album then.
Oh man, if I could even get anywhere near. Have you heard his song 74 Years Old or something like that? Have you heard that song?
I don't remember. I don't remember it.
Well, go online after this and listen to it, and listen to the solo on that record, man. It'll blow your flipping mind. Like, honestly, yeah, anytime you thought you were good, have a listen to that. Like, oh my word, what is that all about? And every year he changes the title because he gets older, and he's now 79 years old now. Like, you know what I mean? But anyway, but the reason I shared that is because I think the thing of the passing on what we have to others, as I've got older, I really realize more and more that that's really what it's about. It's about, I've done my thing, you know what I mean? It's not, I mean, I've got lots more to do, but it's not like I have anything to prove anymore, you know what I mean? I'm just doing my thing and whatever. But it's about passing it on, you know, to others, really, youngsters and stuff, you know?
Yeah. It's great. That is great advice. And I think like, you can't, they say, don't they, you can't outgive God in that way.
No.
Lemmy was asking me, because we watched a film about racism yesterday.
Oh yeah, good.
About the first black girl who went to this school in the New Orleans.
Oh wow, yeah.
When they enforced integration and all the stuff that she went through.
Wow, yeah.
But her family did a real thing about love and about Jesus, and that she was to pray for whenever something bad happened. She was to pray for them.
Wow.
And that she was only 6, you know, she's like tiny.
Yeah.
And she faced all this stuff. Anyway, what the end? We watched then an interview with her, and she's in her 70s now. And she was just such a lovely woman. Who was, no, I just, the longer I go on, I just think it's all about love. It's all about love, this life. And so then Lemmy was asking me afterwards, like, what is the greatest commandment? He said.
Oh, wow.
What's the most, because he's very thoughtful like that. And he said, I thought it was to love God and, you know, to not have other gods and stuff like that. I said, well, Jesus actually said, love the Lord your God and love your neighbor as yourself. And then I think it's later on, maybe Paul, who says he shortens it to just love your neighbor. And it's almost like there's that connection. Yes, how can I love God who I haven't seen if I can't love the person I do see?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And it's kind of cool how, you know, boiling it down, you know, that's applicable wherever we go, isn't it? And whatever we do, just
absolutely,
simple and giving away, being generous. With the best people I think that I've met in music have been super generous with showing others what they do, whether it's sound engineers or mix guys or like the best ones. They're never the kind of guys who, you know, want to keep it hidden and they're just open.
That's really good. I mean, it's a humbling thing to realize the best we can ever be is an emulator. You know what I mean? No one's that good. You know what I mean? We're only copying God, who already knows how to play guitar. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
That'd be something to hear, wouldn't it? Wow.
Well, I know that sounds weird, right? But I remember one time I was in the worship time one time, and I had this vision of Jesus, and he had like Jimi Hendrix's stance, you know what I mean? And he was like, if you thought Jimmy was good, you should hear me.
Mm. Yeah.
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 Yeah, right. He's the Lord of all. He's the Master of masters, isn't he? He's the Prince of princes, the guitar player of guitar players. You know what I mean? That's who he is. So yeah,
The vets. The postman of postman.
yeah, he is. You know, like he is. Yeah, he's the one who all life comes from and all creativity comes from. You know, and yeah. It's pretty cool, really. It's cool. Music only has 12 notes, right? And yet it's an infinite creative source. You know, that in itself speaks of God, right? It speaks of his existence and how he's involved with music so much. You know, it's pretty cool, really.
And between every note, there's the fact that they're bendable. You know, that
yeah.
It's not always the fact that like you can detune a bass slightly, and it sounds better.
Slightly
out.
I know. Weird, isn't it?
It's just weird.
Anything you do with the bass makes it sound better. Let's face it.
The blues is all that, isn't it? It's all that tension is playing minor over major, and it's for some reason it speaks to us so
so deeply.
Yeah.
Blues is that's God's music.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. He doesn't like classical music. He told me that once. But he likes the blues. He said to me one day, you know, the music I love the most is never played in church, and that says something. Yeah, so there you go. I don't know if it was him or me, but it's true.
That says the Ord.
That says the Ord, yeah. You often have to figure out, is it that says the Lord or that says the Ord?
Let's just weigh that for a moment.
You don't need to weigh it. Usually it's wrong. I'll tell you what, my old macker, I've got to go now because I've got to go to rehearsal. I'm doing the music at this special thing on Sunday, and we're recording it today, so I have to get going. But hey, mate,
thanks so much for taking time out to do this, and it's lovely to see you. Love to the family, and I think you just got booked for Fiona's funeral as well, so start saving up for a ticket. She's not dead. Yeah,
I love that woman. She's awesome, and I love to think of her son as well, who passed away. Yeah, it's a gem. Yeah, well, bless you, Marcos. You're a flipping.
Bless you, man.
Yeah, and get yourself a more European name next time. We need Markov or something like that. Slavkov. Yeah, that was your name.
Vishkov and Slavkov, yeah.
Oh, dear.
Some German treats as well. That'll be.
Oh, let's not go there.
Let's end this, and then we can say goodbye in private.
Bless my lovely friend, yeah, and bless everyone who listened. You're